2024 Best Supporting Actor nominee Robert De Niro stars in Flawless. And I broke my own rule here. Um, I wanted to do this one. I did a thing on my Roku device where I asked it to show me Robert De Niro films across the whole streaming service. And yeah, I could have watched. There are tons of them. If you want to watch something with audio description, he's got The Intern. It's on Max. I would highly recommend that. I thought it was a delightful film with him and Anne Hathaway. He's got The Irishman is still sitting on Netflix. If you've never seen that, he's really good in that. And he does have some other films that are floating around on several other services. He's a prolific actor. His films are always going to be bouncing around. There will always be something with him floating in and out of the streaming service that you have. The question will always be, does it have audio description? Does it not have audio description? Those two films, I can confirm both of them have audio description. The Intern's also on Hulu, but Hulu be Hulu. So watch it on Max. Anyway, Flawless is a film that I wanted to talk about because it's a film of De Niro's that I think just goes way under the radar. It even has like a 6.2 on IMDb, like a 50 Metacritic score, and there's a reason for that. It's not due to lack of audio description, it's due to Joel Schumacher. That's why. Watching this film, which deeply needs audio description, by the way, I would say this film is unwatchable without audio description. It's gonna go there. But I wanted to talk about this film because it's also got Philip Seymour Hoffman, who is fantastic in this film for many different reasons. It's just such a great performance from him. And both of these actors deserved Oscar nominations. Not just one, both of them deserved Oscar nominations. I think people saw the Joel Schumacher of it and were just like, nah. And it's like, well, unless you start pointing towards films like this, Joel Schumacher's just going to keep doing Batman and Robin. You know what I'm saying? He's just going to keep doing that type of film. Or crappy action films. It's so interesting that Joel Schumacher felt like this was what he wanted to be the writer-director of. He wrote this too. Yeah, weird. It's got a varied supporting cast, but basically it's about a grumpy conservative old security guard played by De Niro who suffers a massive stroke and has to rehabilitate. And he can't really speak or anything like that. Not well. And part of his therapy that's suggested to him is singing therapy. And he happens to live in the same building as the film likes to say drag queen, but Hoffman's character ends up talking a lot about wanting to have an operation. So he's transgender. It's a transgender character, but constantly referred to as a drag queen in pretty much every single description you could possibly get. It's kind of unfortunate, but he has a transgender neighbor and asks for singing lessons. And of course, Hoffman knows how De Niro feels about them, and initially is like, fuck that, no, nope. It's just that, but also is being haunted by, I think, like a pimp slash something who keeps asking for cash and beating them up, and so we end up going with the singing lessons. And these two, of course, go on the world's most predictable journey, which is slowly becoming friends, but also from from two completely different angles. It's like, this isn't just like two people who like casually are trying to find common ground. It's like De Niro hates everything that Hoffman is, and Hoffman hates everything that De Niro is because De Niro hates them. So it's they have some really nasty fights, and De Niro says some really nasty shit, and Hoffman stands up for themselves a lot, uh, and fights back. And there's so many great lines. This has the line which I feel like has been repurposed, where it's just so I'm more than a man than you'll ever be, and more of a woman than you'll ever get. And it's a great line, and it's used with amazing effectiveness in the moment in which it's used from Hoffman. So these are two fantastic performances that I feel like in a film from 1999, this one was just continuously getting lost to time. And I just wanted to talk about this film for a minute. I saw it was on Roku. You know what's hilarious is that Roku actually has an alternate English channel, but I can't figure out why. Like I pull it up and it has like three. It tells me there are alternate tracks, and it's like there are two English tracks, and there was a Spanish track. I could have watched this in Spanish, and um, I'm like, what is the other English track for? Like, what is it? I hear no difference in anything. I'm like, it's from 1999, so it can't just be for sound quality purposes, can it? Is is it really for that? Because I don't know. I feel I feel like this is a, you know, and it's also a film that we're not going to work too hard to preserve, which is something I talked about with Mississippi Burning. I was like, this film isn't even that old, and I had when I'm going back through these Oscar films and I reviewed Mississippi Burning, I noted I was like, this has an awful sounding soundtrack. It's like we're doing nothing to preserve this film at all. And I feel like Flawless is headed that way. Luckily, Flawless was also released right around the time of the burgeoning DVD, so we were able to hopefully digitize it and get that out there. Because I do remember, I feel like I got my DVD player, and I got mine, not when it was like super expensive, and I got mine like right after 2000. So when it was expensive, but not like, oh my god, new technology expensive. Uh, like those new Apple Vision. It's just like nobody's gonna spend it. 5 people are gonna buy that. Like, but yeah, it's hopefully the quality will not continue to degrade from this point forward. I just want to talk about these performances because they're really great. De Niro is great here. When we're talking about this in relation to Killers, one of the things I really loved about Killers of the Flower Moon is that De Niro was able to disguise his voice, which in so many films he's either not concerned with, or the director doesn't need him to because he's playing like a mafia figure. So he just does De Niro, you know? He's just De Niro. He's De Niro in Meet the Parents. He's De Niro in Las Vegas. Pick a film. He's De Niro. But here, he's forced to have his own speech pattern because he has a stroke. So he has to act like someone who had a severe stroke. But also is stubborn as hell, and clearly is the kind of person who would kick someone's ass if he was up to his full strength. Meanwhile, Hoffman has created an entirely different voice for his character, which is sort of telegraphs to you what he will one day do with Truman Capote. The fact that he's able to manipulate his voice to where you're like, that doesn't sound like Philip Seymour Hoffman at all. I know that there's always that conversation that we have now about cisgender males playing trans characters, and what that looks like on or off screen. But there's a story here. There's a story about somebody working to try to get money for their operation, and a story about that person and two people finally understanding each other. Although he doesn't really have to understand DeNiro, but DeNiro understands him. Um, I don't know. I think this film is a lot better than people give it credit for, and how history is remembering it. It's still directed by Joel Schumacher, so it has these weird moments where it feels very 90s. Like it's not aging well. It's 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 gonna it's gonna be stuck in Joel Schumacher land. But Joel was never going to develop as a director if we didn't let him do more films like this. Um, so you got to let him spread his wings into a genre, into a style that he's not necessarily as familiar with, so that we can get less shittier movies. I feel like this is a much better film for that he's put out for the world than some of the other stuff that he's responsible for. Um, anyway, that's Flawless. It doesn't have audio description. As I told you, my grade is going to be unwatchable. But if you ever get a chance to watch Flawless, if it ever has audio description on it, please watch it. If you're one of my cited followers, watch the film. It's a great film, and it has great performances in it. But as it stands, it's unwatchable. So it's a shame. But I did want to talk about the performances, actually even more so than the film, because those are two performances that I don't think should be lost to time. So, especially considering no one can speak for Hoffman anymore. So, anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I have a website, macthemovieguy.com. You can go to X Threads or Instagram and follow me on Mac the Movie Guy. You can go to the audio description project, adp.asb.org. It'll let you know what is audio description, where you can watch it. And you can go to the adna.org. That's the adna.org. It'll let you know who's narrating your favorite films and television series. That's it for me today. And I will watch something else and see you guys on the other side.